Hello, hello, my name is Day9.
And I am Husky.
And this is now the amateur half of the GeForce SC2 Pro-Am presented by NVIDIA. And what round is it, Husky?
This is the finals, the
Holla!
very last round, and that means whoever wins this is, of course, going to take the first place prize. There is no loser's bracket in the finals game, so this is going to be it. And spawning up in the top right side, it is going to be Zinex's Hack, who is a Korean player who made it all the way, of course, all the way through the finals. He has been playing so well in this tournament, really just kind of crushing everyone that he's gone up against.
Except RSVP, who
yes.
last week knocked Zenix Hack down to lower bracket. Zenix Hack fought his way back to the grand final, so whoever wins this best of 5 will be crowned Dat Dare champion.
Absolutely. So I have no idea what to expect here, but we have seen RSVP's performance as well. I mean, anytime anyone's in the finals of a tournament, they're most likely playing pretty darn good, but RSVP especially has been someone that I've been exceptionally impressed with, and I definitely check out his games as we have cast some of them. And I believe that the replays will be available as well for him. So he's been playing so well, and it does look cross positions here. So to get this series started off, a huge map on Taldry Malter could be a very long game.
And this really interests me. Zenix Hack actually going for the gas first, because a lot of players say, well, I'm going to have trouble defending this big, wide open entrance, and if I need to defend this, it'll probably be with a bunker or with a lot of units. But if I'm defending here, why not just defend here? They're effectively the same difficulty to defend, so I may as well early expand, and that's what we see almost all of the time. But it looks like Zenix Hack will be able to repel this probe and is not going to be doing any such things. He's actually going to be doing a very fast refinery. He might actually be trying to do a 1-1-1 build.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to exactly what he's doing. Something that is pretty weird to do on this map just because of how long it takes to get all the way out across the map. And we do have just a standard opener here out of our Protoss. He's got a Zealot going out there, chrono boosting out that Stalker. That is just to deny the scouting, as the SCV will eventually find his opponent's base. And yeah, he's definitely... What is he doing here? He is adding on a second Rax as well.
Barracks hiding down here. Oh my goodness, how silly of me not to have seen a Barracks down there. He's not going for a 1-1-1. He's just going to a standard 2 Barracks aggression. It's good and bad on this map. Bad because it's very long distances between bases, and if you want to put on early pressure, I obviously want to get to his base at some point. But it's good because of these huge open distances, or open spaces, means that the micro can be very easy to do. You don't have to worry as much about force fields if you're pushing this early, and it looks like he will be pushing once he has 5 Marines and that first Marauder out. Yeah,
and also Protoss player is really inclined to play very greedy on this map. However, we do see RSVP moving out with his Stalker and his Zealot to see exactly what's going on. Now, a lot of Protoss players may just think, well, this map is huge, there's really no reason to have any map presence this early, especially since it is a risk. If a Marauder pops out, you can easily lose that Stalker and the Zealot, but he has done substantial damage to this Marine army that if Zenix Hack decides to move out, his army is just going to be whittled down all the way there.
And RSVP will lose that 1 Zealot, but I'm so impressed with the amount of damage he managed to actually do. I mean, look at all the colors of the autumn leaves that we are seeing in this force. And it looks like RSVP might not be going for the early expand. It looks like he had enough money to, but decided to halt that and instead just go for the extra 2 gateways, and I'm not sure how much I like that. I think he would have been absolutely fine just expanding right away.
And that's exactly what Zenix Hack is going to have to do to try and recover from it. Probably not going to be able to do too much damage here, as he has invested quite heavily in this. It will delay his expansion, and we'll see if he decides to commit here, but I feel like the momentum has kind of ran out of steam a little bit, especially once those other 2 gateways are done. You can upgrade those into the warp gates and have more than enough to hold this off, which again is the reason you don't see that much on this map. Although we do have a... Oh, that was his expansion. I thought he was double expanding, but instead
well,
is adding on
building a factory in the middle of an expansion. No such thing is going down. And it looks like he's trying to poke up the ramp, trying to do a little bit of damage, but it looks like some nice control from RSVP. Wow, look at that Stalker repositioning. He's barely out of range of most of these Marines. The Marauders can't even quite get to the top. Look at that. That's basically a 1-gate defense. He's only now getting gates 2 and 3 up. That was an incredibly good job there by RSVP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not something that's easy to do, especially if that was kind of on an open battlefield without being able to micro against those cliffs. that could have looked completely different, but it shows you the strength of certain builds on certain maps, and that's exactly why you're not going to see that build as much on this map. We do have the expansion up and running now for Zenexac, and the expansion for RSVP just going to be finishing up here a little bit. So, Sean, do you have any predictions on who's going to be behind, even if it's just a little bit after that last engagement?
I would put a little bit of an advantage to RSVP. I mean, he obviously has a couple of extra units, and in a lot of circumstances, it's not as big of an advantage because the Protoss will generally play passively at that point, but RSVP has been anything but passive this game. Look at this, immediately morphing in more Stalkers, and Stalkers, because they're a little bit more expensive, you really need to be aggressive with them to justify building them, and we see RSVP doing exactly that, pressuring. He might even take down this bunker, Husky.
It's going to be close. Yes, if he's having pulled off line, he does get it, and a perfect read on him that he could back out at that exact second as he was paying close attention there, was able to get the bunker. That is going to be 100 minerals plus a little bit of lost mining time, but it does mean that our Terran player is going to hold just fine here. He's not going to be crushed by this, but that's kind of the strength of a Terran player, is they have the ability to turtle. Right now, RSVP, his ability is going to be that full map control, and it's going to be up to him. Does he want to expand again, or what kind of tech is he going to do? Because Hack has kind of already revealed that he's going pretty standard stuff here with those Marines, Marauders, and potential for the medevacs fairly soon.
And it looks like RSVP has bought himself time to get the robotics bay down, so we'll be going directly into Colossus, making himself a good amount of observers. And, you know, Druby used to joke that Protoss players build exactly one observer every single game, so that way they can immediately begin building Colossus. And it's so funny to see Protosses who would lose that observer and kind of have that, yeah, I can't detect anything.
Yeah, I've seen players like Wyrog get 3 or 4 observers at a time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, well, how do they do that? How can they get away with getting so many observers? Because Protoss, you need every unit that you can get. And really, you just use the observers to get the exact right units that you need, rather than having to just warp in tons and tons of stuff. So having multiple observers is huge, especially if there's a threat of a Banshee or something. Having one in their base to see what they're doing, and one in your own base for defense. Especially on a map like this where it takes so long for them to get to you anyway.
Yeah, and we're even seeing players get 3-4 observers just for positioning's sake. I mean, the medevacs have so much ease of movement on this map that the watchtowers can't really help you secure these little roundabout routes. I mean, if you have some observers positioned to the left, you can easily negate those drops without having to get anything specific like a Phoenix to kill the medevac. You can just see where they are, reposition your existing units perfectly.
Now, it does look like those medevacs are going to be spotted by those watchtowers. I'm kind of surprised they flew them directly through there.
A little sloppy.
And especially when you're doing a drop like this, it can be so devastating to a Protoss player if you just get them a little bit out of position. But just kind of revealing what you're doing, this drop is going to be virtually worthless, I would assume, if RSVP is in good position with enough units here. It looks like he will be, but these drops can still be very volatile if they focus down important tech structures. Yeah,
I mean, it looks like RSVP's kind of ready, but I still think it could do some damage. Didn't quite have enough stock to be able to take them. The medevacs, and whoa! The anti-timing moves the wrong way, immediately losing a nice handful of workers there. This is exactly what Hack wanted to do, and now it looks like RSVP is trying to pull in, trying to do that damage, and look at that. Not a single shot off on those medevacs. And a push at the front, taking out this refinery.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, even Marines can be in range of this refinery. And this is kind of one characteristic of this map that everyone has to get used to, in that that can be sniped very easily, unless you have a Colossus here to defend against it. Stim has been used there, which that Stim isn't really gonna do all that much, but the drop potentially could, as they are now queued up to go ahead and drop there. And this is one thing that's gonna be annoying for RSVP in this position, is that there's just so many locations on this map to drop. It's very difficult to cover all of them. And once again, the medevacs have been thwarted. I don't think they've taken any damage whatsoever. And down goes the third for RSVP.
Now, this is always kind of a funky spot when you have a good amount of Colossus up. There's this little dangerous position where you need to do exactly this sort of thing. You need to get into those direct engagements with the Colossi, because they are not so good as those defensive units. You really want them going out into action defensively. They can't deal with medevacs, as you may imagine. You need a lot of them for that big final push, though. So Xenix Hack exploiting how fragile RSVP is in this state. And oh no, this is the problem with the Colossi. You can't really defend all these spread out bases so well. He does manage to cancel, and thank you, Blizzard, for that overlay to let us know. Without any blink, these drops are going to keep doing damage.
Yeah, and if he was able to snipe those 2 medevacs full of units, then that wouldn't have been a huge loss for him. Losing that Nexus, or at least having to cancel it, as it just delays it a little bit, costs a little bit of money. And we do have a Ghost Academy on the way for our Terran player. Is this a fairly early one out of him?
I guess this is a pretty normal timing, but what really surprises me is the fact that there are 4 tech labs on the barracks. I would have expected a reactor on one of them. You don't quite have the gas to get all the upgrades you need, and the Vikings, and the medevacs, and all that business, and still be able to make ghosts. You're going to have to make some Marines, and why make 1 Marine at a time out of a tech lab when you can make 2 at a time out of a reactor?
So true. That is basic math, Sean.
This math is basic.
It's so basic over here. But we do see that his army's starting to look pretty good. Both players at about an even amount of supply. And one thing about RSVP, can you check his upgrades? Is usually Protoss players try and get a lot of upgrades, but we're at the 15.5-minute mark, and he currently has none. So he has to be very, very careful in a direct engagement because the +1 of those Marines and Marauders, and also just having the Vikings out. I would say that Zinix Hack's army right now is pretty darn strong.
And what's really cool is RSVP is getting himself a Warp Prism.
Yes, something that I was watching a couple of Protoss streams, White Raw as well as Huck, and they are starting to use Warp Prisms quite heavily. They are darn good because they don't die in 0 shots from things now. And so it's really, really good for harassment. And also, if you'll see a Protoss player send them with their army just to reinforce the army directly. Really no fancy play. It's just a mobile pylon at that point.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny to just think something as simple as 1 Warp Prism is 2 pylons.
Yeah.
In terms of cost. And it's mobile. I mean, like, that in itself should be more than enough justification. The thing that bothers me, though, is that you always have to think about what composition is he going to be making based upon what I'm building. Very simple. I'm making Colossi, so he is going to be building Vikings. The problem with this is that with this Warp Prism out right now, the Vikings now have an easy target to try to take down. If, for instance, RSVP was doing something like Mass Zealot Archon Templar, we might see Zinix Hack have a lot more Ghosts, a lot more Medevacs, and no Vikings. And then all of a sudden the Warp Prism is a lot stronger. So even though Warp Prisms are fancy and great, and there's plenty of gateways on the map right now, I don't like it as much as some other circumstances.
Now we do have the Twilights, or Templar Archives, excuse me, going down right now. Is he going to be going for Storm? I wouldn't be too surprised to see it. It's just the problem is anytime you go for either Archon or Storm, you are vulnerable to the EMP. Now, I believe that entire army stemmed, so that is going to reduce the amount of energy on those medevacs quite heavily, and the stem is going to be wearing off here fairly soon. So we should be expecting to see a pretty large engagement. That was the second stem going down, and really these stems aren't doing too much, but RSVP decides to engage here. EMPs are hitting off those charge slots, though, have got a small surround. I just don't know if there's going to be enough stuff here. That is a lot of Vikings.
Oh, the Vikings ripping apart the Colossi, but it looks like RSVP might just have a few too many units on the ground. No, the Vikings land. They'll be able to clean up the remainder of everything, and RSVP suddenly does not have enough gateways, it seems, to be able to support himself. Is he warping in any units anywhere? Where are the units? They're down at the far south side, and there are just way too many ground units warping in to handle.
Yeah, and this army from Hack isn't even that large. It's just, oh, there's a lot of Stalkers there doing nothing. That's definitely going to be hurting RSVP right now. But it's just that the upgrades of RSVP were so far behind of what you would expect in a PvT. I mean, look, the upgrades are just now finishing, and the double upgrades that you see quite often from Protoss just seemingly too late. Now, this is a lot of Marine and Marauder. These Archons would have been crucial in that battle, but just more Archons by themselves are not going to be enough, I don't think.
And it looks like we're seeing a couple more units warp in. It looks like RSVP is just going to take the hit, just going to let the Nexus die, going to try to warp in more units as he can afford them. And there the Archons sweep in such incredibly strong units. The Vikings lift up, but a couple will not be able to escape. And RSVP is in a very odd situation. I mean, the third is up for Zinix Hack. He's, in terms of this units lost tab, we can clearly see, yep, not doing so good in terms of the workers. But weirdly, Zinix Hack just does not have that many workers overall, only 56. Far more for RSVP. We have the Immortal Archon mixture out right now. The Archon's now swinging over to this critical left expansion. And where is that warp? It's up on the north, getting taken down. Yuck.
Getting killed off there. Not going to be good for RSVP simply because he lost 2 bases in this engagement, and while the supply counts don't really show a huge discrepancy, RSVP is not going to have the income right now to replenish his army, while the Terran player is going to be doing just fine. So he's trying to be cost effective here. He's trying to get that Psy Storm out, relying on a couple of good storms to keep him in this game, but he just doesn't have much momentum right now because after losing 2 bases, his income is going to be dwindling. You can see him trying to get that up and running, But he does have, I mean, one mining base directly north of his main. But at this point, it just seems like if he sits back too long, he's not going to have enough stuff to deal with the Cannonball.
But what I really like is that RSVP is not out of the game yet. And I don't even mean that, like, well, he hasn't given up. It's so easy, you know, even like in Grandmaster League, to see two players get a big force, push out, one of them crushes, and that's done. RSVP doing the smart decision, letting this expansion die, for a chance to let the game continue on, and RSVP obviously is in a little bit of a bad position, but he still has a fighting chance, and that is very impressive to me. We see that these Templar are stepping forward. If he can get some good storms off, that could turn the tide of battle, and that would be an incredible start to a comeback.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what he needs, is some really good storms. Or very cost-effective use of his units, but so far that's a bad start. A second High Templar may go down. The Archon gets sniped right away.
Sniped.
And yeah, he does snipe it. We do see the surround right now. He's trying to do as much damage as he can with these Archons, and they're not doing too bad of a job.
Oh, that's what he needed.
Additional damage. Yeah, the storm's pretty good, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough here.
He has just a few too little on the unit count. We see that this Immortal from the backside might barely be enough. No, it looks like RSVP does not quite have the units. My gosh, what an unbelievably close battle. If any of those other storms had landed, it would have reversed that situation. But now, the only real mining expansion for RSVP, it looks like it is going to fall, and there is the good game.
Wow, absolutely outstanding play out of Hack in this very first game, hitting a really good timing, as well as putting on that early pressure. So RSVP, while he has defeated Hack in the past, is going to have to do it again here in these next couple of games. A really outstanding game out of Hack.
I'm really excited to see if Hack can possibly do what a lot of people expect not to come from the lower bracket and beat the player who eliminated you in the first place, or I should say who knocked you down in the first place. That would be some great revenge from Xenix Hack, but RSVP, as we saw previously, dominated Xenix Hack in their last series. We saw that skill start to shine through. He couldn't quite keep it together in this game, but I have a lot of confidence that the finals will continue to be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a super quick break. I'm going to grab some water. I'm also Husky.
And I'm also Day9, and I will also be grabbing water. See you for Game 2 right after this.